All right, guys, if you've been watching my videos, I'm servicing now on the 06 Silverado. This is the first gen Vortec, the last year, I believe, of 2006. And so I've walked you through a series of videos, and now I am about to do a complete suspension job. And what prompted this was, first off, I determined that the rack and pinion, both bellows is leaking pretty bad. In fact, when I checked the reservoir of the power steering fluid, it was empty. So I knew there had been a leak. And sure enough, you can look back there and see the bellows are covered in grease. So to start this job, one thing that's critical is to make sure you have plenty of support. Now I want to show you, you can see I've used some big 4x4s for center support. I've used jack stands, safety jacks in the center. I've got my 7-ton jack, and on the front end here I have a huge hydraulic jack. So this is extra precaution. These trucks are 7,000 pounds, so I've got plenty of support. But to start this process, I'm going to do that rack and pinion last. So I thought what I would do is make a good video and walk through the process, and then I'll either post these individually or I'll stitch something together. But this is a rear wheel drive model, VIN T 325. It's a 5.3 liter V8. Like I said, the last year of the Silverado first gen Vortex. I believe it's 06 was the last year. And so I have made a decision. This truck has over 100,000 miles on it now, that I'm going to just totally replace the suspension. Since I'm down here and got to do the rack and pinion anyway, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade it all. So I'm going to start that process by getting these brake hoses out of the way, and this APS sensor that's plugged in here, I'm going to get it out of the way because the new hub and everything I bought, Moog, it has a new brake sensor wire and all attached to it. So I'm going to have to take a 10mm here and unbolt this, and I'm going to kind of get them out of the way. That's going to be the beginning of the process. Then of course we got the caliper here, and I've already bled the brake lines, so I'm not going to open this banjo bolt or anything here. These have been bled, and I've got fresh fluid in here. I'm going to leave that intact. The brake hoses are in good shape. What I am going to do though is get back here and remove these bolts to remove, essentially, I'm going to get the rotor out of the way, and I am actually going to replace the hubs too. So I'm not going to have to worry so much about breaking the lower ball joint. I'm going to go ahead and separate this upper ball joint just so I can ease the lower control arm down here to get this spring out, because I am going to upgrade the springs and the shocks in the process. So let's kind of take an overview of this. So I'm going to have new rotors. I'm going to put new rotors on. I've ordered new brake pads to put in here, and I'm going to put in a new knuckle. So, and I'm going to put in this sway link here. I've got a new rack and pinion that has the inner tie rods, and I have bought a set of outer tie rods here to go in. So I will break this outer tie rod, pop it out. I'll take out this sway link here, and I'll remove and separate the upper ball joint just so I can loosen up this lower control arm, ease this down to get that spring out. Now this is after I've loosened the shock up top here and taken the 2 bolts on the bottom out and dropped the shock out. Then I'll be ready to essentially replace everything. Now these cam locks and all here on the side, I've got a new set of them I'm going to put in too. So I'm going to mark my locations so I can get them back essentially as close as possible before this thing ultimately gets in alignment. Now this sway bar, while I'm dropped down here, I'm going to replace those bushings on both sides too, out here. And you can buy them as an entire set. I believe that's a 10 millimeter. And before I do any of this, I've already started spraying penetration spray on all the critical points. Because ultimately, I'm going to do this over a series of days. I want to be able to break them free without a big struggle here, or prevent it as much as possible. So let's look at the front end. The bumper stops are in good shape on the front. I've already replaced in a separate video the back bump stops. So, but anyway, so let's just do a quick overview so we can see existing. You can see your upper control arm here, cam locks here on the side. So let's get a view of this. And then we've got the upper ball joint here. And we see the caliper. All right. I'll do a separate when I do the rack and pinion. There's your lower ball joint in there. You can see the hardware on the back it's going to take to remove. The knuckle will come out when I take the ball joints out. This hub will slide off when I get the caliper set out. This is a rear wheel drive, so there's no nut here on the hub on the front side. It's just held on basically by the caliper and everything. So that should slide out fairly easily. I'll have to loosen these up for the lower control arm, and that'll let that spring ease on out. Now I'll put a jack under here to give this support so I can ease that down, takes the tension off. These top covers are sitting up here in the springs. I'm going to replace them too, and then I'll slide a new shock in, the new springs, and then I'll exert a little pressure, push it back into place and hold it in place while I install a new shock. All right, and then I'll come back, plug my sensors back in. I'll have a new sensor here, get my brake hose back on this 10 millimeter nut here. I'll put my new sway in, the link here. Putting the new brake pads in. My new rotor on. Knuckle will make it easier because I don't have to worry about beating out that bottom lower ball joint, since I'm going to just go ahead and put new knuckles on. All right, so now this is all on the passenger side, and exact same process over on the driver's side. So let's walk over and just take a quick view of it. Same setup. Now you did have to specify right and left for your lower control arms. You need to be sure you specify and order them separately. And but otherwise, most of this comes in matching sets, or you need to order quantity too when you're ordering these things. So here is the driver's side, same process. I'll probably remove this here just so it has a clear path when I take this upper control arm out. So, all right, now what you're seeing in the back is that Wool's wax undercoating that's been done. I'll try to stay out of the way of it. Again, that bump stop on this side looks good too, surprisingly. There's the ABS sensor connection. There's the top nuts to remove the shock. So it should be a straightforward job. I've got impact wrenches and tools. Most of these appear to be around 15 to 24 millimeter at tops. So it's pretty standard. I think these out here are probably 24 millimeter. And these on the back side are anywhere from 15 to 18, 19 millimeter. Torque settings I'll specify in my comments when I complete the work. The tires have already been removed, as you can see, and I've got security set up. There you go. And I'll come back, torque these back on. I believe these are 140 foot-pounds. When you're all said and done, you put your tires back on. I'll take it straight for an alignment. The rack and pinion's on order, as is all the other parts, so as they come in, I'll be able to finish filming this out. So if you're looking at suspension upgrades on the front end, this might be helpful to follow along. On the back side, I've ordered new shocks. I've already put new bump stops at timbering that I did a separate video on. I've changed a lot of the other maintenance items in separate videos, so you can go watch them. All right, thanks for riding along.